Hello, everyone. You're all very welcome to Underground Cinema. So we're in the thick of interviewing as many nominees as we possibly can before the Underground Cinema Film Awards, which take place in a month's time in the Royal Marine Hotel in Dunleary. So we've been talking to actors and directors all week. I'm delighted to be able to say that I'm talking to a director and a jack of all trades, to be honest with you, because he's done so much work on this film, which has also been nominated for a Production Design Award this year. The film's called The House That Was Not, and the director of the film was Dean Byrne. You're very welcome, Dean.
Thanks very much, Dave. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Dean, I think you did a fantastic job. I was just chatting to you earlier when I put the film on to watch it. In the room I have in here I moved up to this house, and when I came into this room, it was empty. And I said, that's it, I'm going to turn this into a small cinema. So I put a very big screen into this room. So when I sat back in these recliner chairs and pumped up the sound and watched your short, I said, oh my God, this just looks epic. Absolutely fantastic.
Thanks
It
very
just
much.
looks stunning, to be honest with you. Can you tell us just what the film was all about, The House That Was Not?
Yeah, it was. It's actually based on a short story from the 1800s in America. And I had read it years ago, and I always thought it would make a great short or a great feature eventually, but I couldn't adapt it directly. So I changed it that, she's an Irish immigrant. So essentially what the film is that an Irish immigrant, just after the famine around 1870, marries an American farmer and moves out to the Kansas prairies, and things begin to unravel from that.
Yeah, like the film deals with isolation, trauma, and the supernatural, and I think it's great that sort of ties in with the famine as well. Um, but just going back to the epic look from the very start, which is brilliant. Where did you shoot this scene?
It was shot in an entirety in County Meath, Longwood specifically. So I know it was. I spent. I'm actually a musician, so I spent a bit of time on the road, and I was obsessed with finding like a wheat field.
Yeah.
So we were filming in. My brother had a bit of room to film in, and we had built a cabin. I'll get into that in a second, and everything seemed to happen around the same area. So I was very lucky that way, but I was able to kind of mock it up that it was America in the 19th century.
Yeah, I'm not joking, Dean. It's probably one of the best opening shots that for a feel, for a feel that actually looks like it's you're in America. It genuinely looked like you were on the prairie. I thought it was fantastic. Actually, I was convinced that it was, to be honest with you, because I watched it to the end, and I watched all the credits at the end as usual, and then you submitted the work to me on Film Freeway, and I read everything about it, and I was just amazed that it was in Ireland. It really was.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. I was happy enough with how it turned out. I was surprised that I was able to do it, but it was a stroke of luck and a lot of preparation, I suppose, because it was very, very. It was made on a shoestring on nothing, and I kind of had to do a lot of stuff myself and call in some favors and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, this sort of deals with a thing called prairie madness. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, it's about isolation, really, isn't it? In a very big expanse.
Mm-hmm. I'd read a little bit about prairie madness and having kind of studied like American literature and stuff like that, just in research. It was basically isolation. People had moved from cities and they were able to get these plots of land, but there was a lot of wind, and then there was a lot of silence and just complete isolation, that people started to imagine things, and it was mostly women, because they had to do a lot of work but in the home, whereas the men were out kind of farming and doing whatever else they had to do. So it was mostly women. There was there's a handful of films that actually deal with it from through the years, but I thought it was really interesting just to have to wonder about it and to question what the madness was, and was it real? Was it in their head? Was it just a combination of all these factors? So I tried to kind of leave it a little bit open for that.
Yeah, I found myself thinking when I read up a just a little bit about it myself, and I just sort of, immediately found myself thinking about, The Shining.
Yeah.
A lot of that, and if you read the book as well,
Mm-hmm.
is about isolation. And I mean, Nicholson plays an absolute blinder on that, but it's a bit like what you're saying there. He's imagining voices. He's seeing things. You're out there for so long on your own. I really thought I've never come across anything like that apart from seeing The Shining. I haven't really come across an indie short film that sort of delves into that sort of subject. What drew it to you?
I think when I read the original story, and it's only a short story, it's very, very short, by Elia W. Peaty from, can't remember the year, 1860 or something. But it was just a nice story because it didn't kind of spoon feed you or anything like that. It was very open to interpretation. It was very concise, but you could glean the madness from it, like the prairie
Yeah,
madness that was going on. And I like the idea of kind of like horror films that give the audience a little bit of credit, and you're not really told any answers and you can figure things out for yourself. But I think it was the fact that I was able to do that. It wasn't very cut and dry. It was, is this happening? Who's seeing it? In the original story, there's no, not to spoiler alert and all this stuff, but the original story, there's no ghost to speak of. There's no ghost in the original story or anything like that. So I thought that was, as it gets closer to her, it's asking her to come and take a look and see for yourself. So I thought
yeah,
it was able to be interpreted in a couple of different ways. I just thought it was an interesting story to adapt. And
yeah.
of course, it's about 40% of the original story, and then the rest is what I put into it.
Yeah, yeah, you've got two. This is a two-hander for anybody that hasn't seen it. A lead actor and a lead actress. Tom Kersk is
Tom
your
Kerrisk,
lead,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Calla Hughes. Both,
Calla Hughes,
both
yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, they worked really well together.
Yeah, I thought they were great. Tom actually was a friend of mine, and I had written a story, and we were playing a show. He does some music as well, and I looked at him and I said, You look like a character that I've written." So I gave him the script, and we had actually met up with an actress, and I kind of cast her. Wasn't completely confirmed, and she pulled out at the last minute, and Calla came in at the last minute. We had about a week of prep with her, and she just blew me away. She was absolute. Both of them were incredible, but I had to hand it to Calla for such a short amount of time that she had to prepare. She was really great. She was perfect.
Did you rehearse it much between the two of them, or did you just? It was all on set, no rehearsals at all.
It was we did 2 Zoom calls is all it was, because
Sure.
trying to get everybody together was, it was typical.
Yeah.
So we did 2 Zoom calls, and then there was a bit of a little bit of rehearsal on set, but not much because I had very little time. It was shot in 3.5 days, so it was really, really tight schedule. So they really came prepared. I have to hand it to the guys. They were absolutely brilliant.
Very
There
good.
was only
Like a lot of thought went into like the costumes are all very authentic.
Mhm.
The 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 props that are in the cabin, they're all of the period. There's a lot of thought process that there's a lot of thought that's gone into to how this is going to look.
Yeah, that was credit to Tom Kerrisk. Actually, he brought some of his own stuff, and it really worked well. Calla had a bit of a nightmare getting the right costume, so I ended up having to go and get that from the Abbey costume department. And luckily, I found exactly what I was looking for. Otherwise, I would have had to get someone in to make it. But
Yeah,
yeah, the props. Funnily enough, my dad is like a Western enthusiast, so I was able to
yeah,
get access to like saddles and bridles, and actually the reason there's a horse in the short is that my brother trains horses, because
right.
without that access there is no horse. I hadn't got the money for that, so he did me a big favor there. So I was able to get all of that, and then we had some props that I found. I went, did a lot of shopping, a lot of markets, and secondhand shops and everything just to get stuff and stuffing things up and getting candles and old bits and pieces and making them up. So yeah, there was a lot of work went into the back end before I was able to start shooting.
Yeah, you can see exactly. You had a vision in your head, and you definitely got it right. And I think I was talking to Deirdre Bulger this morning. She's another production designer. She was the production designer on Ohm, and she's saying the same thing as you're talking about. You're pulling in so many different favors to get every little bit bit and piece that you need for your set.
Yeah,
There's a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails,
yeah,
to get it right. But it pays off. It looks great.
yeah.
The
Thanks.
the cinematography is great as well. It's really beautifully shot, and it's lit very well when we go into the cabin then later on. It's lit really, really well. Who was your cinematographer?
It was John Farrelly. Actually, he's a director in his own right. He did on Toyshire last year the first Irish language horror film. But he had a bit of downtime. He liked the script, and he knew I wanted to direct it, so he's happy to come on as DOP. And he had Carl Fitzpatrick as his first camera assistant. They work together, so he's actually a genius. This guy's he's brilliant. So I was very, very lucky to have him working with me, and we worked quite well together. He has a good eye for things too, very good cinematographer.
Yeah, no, really, really good. And did I read right that this is your first time producing stroke directing a short like this?
Yeah, this is my first one. Yeah.
That for a first time, that it's absolutely incredible. Well, what did you find were the biggest challenges?
Scheduling, I think, was a massive challenge because of trying to get everybody together on basically no money, which was the problem. Like I was happy to do so many jobs. As you seen, I was on props, I was on costumes, production design. That was just out of necessity. But I'm kind of glad because it was a learning experience as well. But that was the challenge. Is just I was lucky with the weather, for example. But yeah, getting everybody together and getting it right. It was the preparation that was really tough because once we were on location, that was it. There was no running out to get other stuff or changing things. I just didn't have the time. Nobody had the time. So that was probably the biggest challenge. So I was happy enough with the prep and that everybody came together. It was a very, very small team. There was only, 5 of us, I think. It wasn't a lot. So having everyone pulled together was a big help. And I got some help from my dad and my brother, which was, made a kind of family thing. Everybody had to muck in and get involved.
Yeah, but like when you surround yourself with really good people, Dean, it all comes together at the end, and it sounds like they're really good, and that's the beauty of a small production team and a small cast. Yeah, you can work much better. It can be very difficult, when you're working with a very big team, and you can imagine the schedule and trying to keep it all together.
Mhm.
And what's next? Have you something in mind for your next film?
Yeah, I'm working on a short at the moment. I'm trying to develop it. It's actually a comedy, funnily enough. But a lot of people say, "Oh, don't do comedy," and nobody does comedy. Somebody has to do it. So that's what I'm working on, as well as I'm trying to adapt the house that was not into a full feature because I think it can be done, and I think it can be done, relatively cheap. I suppose if I could get some funding. I did struggle to get funding because that was my first film, which meant back to the production design. I had to
Yeah.
design it and like build the set myself, and I had some help doing it, but that was the thing. I had no choice. I just had to do it. So I was glad with how it turned out. So if we could get access to that again for a feature, but in the meantime, it's the second short. It's a kind of not a broad comedy, but it's a very specific kind of Dublin based comedy, and I hope I can get that over the line. But it come down to funding and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, funding at the end of the day is crucial, And I was just thinking about some of the film productions that we've seen over the past couple of months have been funded by local county councils. So we were talking to some of the guys that have received funding from Wicklow County Council. O'Leary got down a really good grant scheme as well. And it'd be great to see more. Kildare do an excellent one as well, fantastic one. It'd be great to see more county councils, pick up on this and award these grants. I think I worked on a panel of judges with Kildare County Council a number of years ago, and the idea there was to, they're looking for a really top class script. They're looking for the film to be shot in Kildare, and not it doesn't necessarily have to be in the entire film, but I think something like 70 or 80% of the film has to be shot in Kildare. But once you have the county, plus the other beautiful thing about it was once the county council was on board, once you received the grant, there was stuff that they could do, like they could, if you needed to say shut down a road in your film or something like that, where you and I would take weeks to be even trying to find the right person to talk to ask, can we shoot the road? They know, and they can shut a road down just like that. If you needed a house, they'll get a house for you. If you needed, a load of guys working on to sort of volunteer to help you on site, they can arrange all that, and that sort of help is invaluable. So, whereabouts do you live, Dean?
I live in Tallaght. I'm in Tallaght in Dublin. But to be honest, as I said, it's like when I say a Dublin-based comedy, this can be shot anywhere. I'm very aware of that. So I think the county councils will be getting an application fairly soon. It's nearly ready to go to proposal stage and see. The script is developed. I've had a few people help me out with it, just through notes and stuff like that. So yeah, but I'm in Tallaght, which is actually handy because I'm not quite in the city centre, and I'm right beside rural areas and stuff like that. So it's actually all right.
Yeah, the other thing you're talking there about turning this particular film into a feature as well, and we see this a lot where people shoot the short to see if it works, if it resonates with the audience. It's almost like a pilot to be honest with you, and it works, then they'll go on to make the feature. Has this film screened in front of an audience yet?
Yeah, it's actually at the end of the festival run now.
Okay, right.
So I was hoping that I'd get 2 festivals because one could be a fluke, at least 2. But it got 8 in the end, and it was screened at the Almeria Western Film Festival in Spain, which is massive, where they made all the spaghetti westerns, Sergio Leone films, and all were made over there. So for them to accept it as a legitimate western was a massive. I was very surprised. I was delighted with that. So it screened there, screened in Melrose Hill Festival in the US. So it has screened, and it was actually taken by a streaming service last week called Crafty. So we're on last Wednesday, and in a week it got 60,000 views.
Wow,
which was like I was expecting maybe 2,000.
Yeah. I mean, that would be our sort of average. When we do the monthly screenings, that's the sort of number that we'd be looking at over a 2-day period. Is around 2,000. To be getting that sort of high numbers is fantastic. And has it screened in front of an Irish audience yet?
Yeah, just in festivals. It's been the rest of the festivals were Irish, so there was Boyne Valley Film Festival, Waterford, you guys. It's screened at a good few. So it's been mostly positive reactions, which I'm happy with. Considering the limitations of making it and where it was coming from and trying to do everything, but people seem to resonate with people, which is quite nice because it's probably not the most accessible film in some ways. It doesn't really give you too many answers, but I thought through atmosphere and story, it might be okay. People seem to have went for it.
Yeah, it is a great piece. The running time is perfect as well. It's not too long. It's not too short. It's just bang on, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of ran longer than it was on the page because there's a lot of silences, and I thought that kind of added to it. If you're rushing through it, it doesn't really give you enough. There is silences. There's the shots that maybe look like they could be cut a little bit sooner, but I thought, no, leave it, let it go, and I think it worked out well. Yeah, it just comes in just under 20 minutes, And I know
Yeah,
some
yeah.
festivals think that's too long, but for the film that it is, what can I do? You know, it has to be
Well,
what
wait,
it is.
wait, I tell you, when we first started Underground Cinema 16 years ago, going into 17, the average running time for a short film was 12 minutes. That was the average, so if you got 100 films in, the average is 12 minutes.
Hmm.
That's changed. I did an exercise there recently and looked at the average running time for the films that have been submitted into us. The average running time now is 18 minutes. So it's
Wow.
increased by 6 minutes over 16 years. So short films are getting that bit longer. And film festivals, it's all about time when it comes to film festivals. We're not so much tied with, we run two events. Our online event, we're okay with time. We can have a 2.5, 3 hour program if we want.
Hmm.
But when it comes to a live festival, that's a different story. So a festival programmer is just working on minutes. At the same time, what he or she is trying to do is give the audience the best stories that they can possibly squeeze into their 2 hours. But um, when we certainly will, if we come across a film, let's say that's 20 minutes long for a 1.5 hour program, we know that's going to eat up, a chunk of our time. But if it's good, it deserves to be screened, and I think a lot of festivals are coming around to that thought process. If you've got something really good and it deserves to be screened, then screen it. It should be screened. So we would have no hesitation screening your film at a live event. It's very, very good. I think it
Oh,
grabs
look.
an audience. I think it's entertaining. It's good. You don't feel. Plus, on top of the other thing as well is I didn't feel that it was long. To be honest
Hmm.
with you, I didn't feel. I wasn't looking at my watch or moving around the seats here. I thought it was bang on. So it's a good festival film.
Oh, lovely. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's good to hear because I guess when you're making it, you don't know, and then I have to kind of trust my instinct on that and just say, look, there's no point in trying to shorten it to please anybody else. The film is what it is itself.
Yeah.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, rather
You
than
know,
trying to.
when you're a director and a writer, you're very close to the film. It's very uh, you're very passionate about it. How
Mhm.
difficult is it then when you're in at the edit? If you're doing the edit yourself, because you did the edit yourself as well, yeah.
Yeah, well, I assisted on the edit. John Farrelly did the edit, but with me. So yeah, essentially, yeah, we did it together. But he was the brains of the operation. But it was, yeah, because I was aware of that there was some things, and I said maybe that doesn't work. I know there's no sacred cows. It's like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think
Yeah,
because there was so much prep done, we didn't shoot anything that we really didn't use.
very good.
It was all there. It's kind of the only way I could do it because of the budget and the time. So when we built the set, for example, I had to build. That's the same room
Yeah,
redone. It's not two different rooms, obviously. So we had to build false walls and everything else. So I needed time. I was like, well, get the shot. Don't overdo it because I knew I'd go into the edit and I'd be like, oh, what was that bit? And I know exactly I knew what I wanted. So it was tough. It was kind of tough to we were coming together on that, and I'd say, let that shot go a bit longer. And John's instincts were because he's more of a professional than me. He's a director in his own right. He was like, "Oh, maybe you should cut there." I said, "No, no, leave it." And I'm glad I did because I wasn't. It wasn't like I was saying, "Oh, it's a great shot." Like, it was more of a time thing and a feeling that give that an extra second, and it might unsettle people a little bit. Or they're wondering why it's gone a bit longer and stuff like that. So it was it was actually a nice process. I think I was lucky, and I don't know whether I'll ever have that again.
yeah. Well, I honestly think the edit process is just as hard. It may even be harder in some cases. When you're in post production, especially when
Mhm.
you're very close to it, and if you're a director, and in particular a writer director, and you're involved in the edit process, it can be very hard to let go sometimes of scenes. And that's why I think it's very good that you did have John there, to talk it over. I mean,
Yeah,
he's probably editing quite a lot, and obviously he saw something there that he felt needs to be maybe cut a little bit more, and you stood your ground on that. And I think those conversations in the edit suite are really, really, really important. I've seen lots of barrels in edit suites. I can tell you that over the years.
yeah. Yeah,
because some people are so passionate they don't want to see anything go.
yeah, I can understand it. As I said, I was looking because John, I get along very well with John, and I really respect him. You know what I mean? He's done so much good work, and he's well on his way. He's the next big thing, I think. But it was great to have his opinion, and he was able to, say, "Oh, well, how about this?" And we could put this in here, and it was great. It really worked well, with even with the inserts of like, the moonlight and stuff like that, just to kind of, because the film does go from kind of daytime into nighttime
Yeah,
across, and as the spectre gets closer and stuff. So
the grade, the grade of the film is excellent. I mean, it really looks really well. It's a polished grade.
yeah,
It looks super. Yeah,
thanks. That's all down to John, by the way. I can't take any credit for that. He just he did the color, so that was,
yeah,
and
it looked amazing.
he had the VFX that had to be done. So yeah, I was happy with that because again, like some of the scenes, like the final scene of the kind of chase or whatever you want to call it, that's I think that's
Yeah,
4 different locations, and
yeah.
across different days and trying to get the color to match and stuff like that. I think he did a great job on that.
Yeah. Well, look, Dean, I think you did an amazing job. The whole crew, the cast, they did a fantastic job this year. I tell you, it was really tough this year because the standard of films that came into us this year just sort of went through the roof.
Yeah,
It's just getting better and better every year. It's great to see indie films at this level, at this standard, coming through to us. So I'm dying to see what you have coming up for us next. Don't forget to keep us in touch and bear us in mind if you're going to be submitting. We'd like to see
yeah,
it.
absolutely. I'd love to, and I appreciate everything. I appreciate being chosen for it and the nomination as well. I'm genuinely humbled. I'm delighted.
You're very welcome, Dean. Well, listen, thanks a million, Dean, and we'll chat again soon.
That's great. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Chat to you.
All right, take
Okay.
care.
Cheers.